Welcome to Scottish Watches Podcast. What an exciting episode we've got for you today. Lots of our friends have got new watches out. So we're going to be talking about Jody from Just One More Watch with his Arabus. I think that's how you pronounce it. We've got the guys at Williamwood with the fire and fire extinguisher watches. Looks a little bit like a watch we had in our charity auction with a couple of little changes. Plus we're going to talk about loads of things such as the Worn and Wound, laser tag collection, a release from Collective Horology and Montblanc, plus tons more including the Red Bar Roundup from the Global Meetup. But we should probably start things as we mean to go on and get into the first watch, and this is from Jody. He has got a watch out that has been anticipated, I would say, for a number of years. He's spoken about it at length. He's always tried to bring inexpensive timepieces to the larger world, and finally he's actually got one of his own branding. So you've seen the pictures of this. We don't have much in the way of tech spec because the actual release comes later today, the day we're recording, but we do have the pics, we do have a price, and we do have a name. You've had a look at the images, Dave. What do you think for $299?
We don't know a huge amount about them, or maybe we do, but we can't say because these are releasing a mere few hours after we are recording this. It's a good looking watch. It's $299 US, we believe. And it's going to hopefully answer everything that Jodie's ever had an issue with about entry-level watches. So check out the show notes because by the time this goes out on Monday, all the details will be out there. It's actually going live at a time convenient to Australians, which actually I guess is pretty much a good thing on the basis that Jodie's based in Australia. But it does mean in the UK you will need to be up in the wee small hours. So you'll be fine, Ricky, because you'll still be wide awake.
I will be wide awake, and this is a good opportunity to tell you to play along at home. Check the show notes for this episode in your podcast player or on YouTube. Click the link in the description. It'll take you to our website, to a specific page with all the technical details, all the pictures, all the links that you need to find out more about these watches, including this one that we don't know much about. Because I chased Jody earlier and said, hey guy, can you give me some more info? Because we're recording a show later. I know there's an embargo, I know there's all this kind of stuff happening, and he never got back to me in time. Although he did say that the name of the company is based on, I think it's a god, some kind of dark mythological god from Greek history, and the name of the watch is called the Origin because it is the first one. But the pictures look great. Obviously, being Jody, he has taken the best from a multitude of different areas when it comes to watchmaking. There's a little bit of maybe the Tudor Pelagus in there, there's a little bit of a Seamass, there's a little bit of this, that and the other. So Jody has done his best to accumulate everything in the melting pot, bring it all together to the boil, and bring it out at a very inexpensive price. I'm sure it's going to go down fantastically well.
Hello Ricky, hello Dave, hello to the listeners and to the viewers of Scottish Watches. This is Jody from the Just One More Watch YouTube channel. I guess it's now also Jody from Arabus Watches because I just launched my own micro-brand watch company and my first model. The brand is called Arabus, the model is called Origin. The Origin is exactly the watch that we wanted to launch first. It's a no-nonsense, super legible tool diver with all the right specifications that I look for in a watch. 41mm in diameter, all stainless steel construction, all brushed, no high polished anywhere, so it'll wear well no matter what you do with it. Super legible, nice big dial, big handset, heaps of lume, heaps of anti-reflective undercoating. It's got quick release end links in the bracelet so you can swap it for leather straps, rubber straps, no problem at all. And it has on-the-fly adjustment in the clasp so you always get the right fit. We're offering on these for the next 4 weeks on a pre-order special price of $299 US plus shipping, and we're expecting all the watches to ship no later than the end of March next year, so you won't have long to wait for your Arabus Origin. Check us out at arabuswatches.com, arabus.watches on Instagram, or search for and join Club Arabus on Facebook.
My first instinct when I looked at it was, am I looking at something I've seen already? And actually the reality is, no, you're not. It is, I guess, there's little hints of homage to various different brands, but no one is dominant. So it's not like a pattern copy of anything really. It's taking little design cues from really cool things. But frankly, at $299, nothing that it's taking cues from is available for $299. So I think this will be extremely successful.
And something that's going to be extremely successful is us. We're remembering to do the wrist checks very early on in this episode. And I have a new watch. It is the Christopher Ward 12. It is the larger variation that came out a number of months ago. I got to trial it when I went to a Zenith event, and I think I was the only person there with it because none of the other journals had got their grubby little mitts on it just yet. Loved it then. Asked the guys, what's the situation? How easy is this going to be to get? And they couldn't predict And unfortunately, I didn't place an order at that moment in time. It went out of stock immediately, and stock replenishment has only just come in. So I secured one, and I have it on the metallic bracelet. So if you don't know about the 12, then you must have been hiding under a rock. This is the follow-up to the massive smash hit success of last year that was the Bel Canto. This looks a little bit familiar, and the reasons for that is the designer of this, who worked for Christopher Ward, also does a little bit of freelancing on the side, and he may have been responsible for the Chapek Antarctique. A lot of comments have been made in the media about the similarities, but hey, it's an integrated stainless steel sports watch, so there's always going to be similarities. This one here comes in just over £1,000. As I say, on the bracelet you have the option for the rubber strap with it in a multitude of different colours. It has got a colour matched date disc, a fantastic pattern on the dial. All the indices are sloped inwards, and it just catches the light from pretty much every angle. And the butterfly clasp on the back is absolutely perfect and super slimline. So I've only had this for about a week or so. I've not had much opportunity to wear it because the other watch that I got, I've been playing around with this as well. I noticed something online about the new Swatch Blancpain Scuba 50 Fathoms crossover. A lot of people had been complaining that they thought their watches were buggered because when they tried to hand wind them, it just wasn't working. The second hand was not moving. So a little handy hint for everybody out there, read the manual and you actually, Maziel, hope you're listening, you wind this the opposite way. Did you know that, Dave?
I did, because I have a multitude of Swatch watches featuring the very same movement and various iterations of it, and it is a little bit of a backwards one, it has to be said. It will actuate very quickly, even just with a quick wiggle of the watch in your hand, to be honest. Get the rotor spinning and it usually powers itself up quite quickly. But yes, if you try and wind the crown, you'll wind it a long time in the conventional direction and find it does absolutely nothing. And if you then go back to the shop, you'll do a Miziel, I think is the fairest way to put it.
So here we go. This is a slightly different angle of the watch, and as you can see, that bracelet just captures the light from every angle, and the pattern on the dial, it does the same kind of thing. Fantastic watch. I wonder what they're going to do for the third album. Who knows? But anyway, Christopher Ward doing great things as always at a price point that commands your attention, if not the pennies from your wallet. And you might have spotted something. This is the latest edition of Oracle Time, and inside it, there's this funky little robot thing. And the guy that is making this, which is a watch winder, watch holder, he was actually at the Global Red Bar, but we're going to be talking more about Global Red Bar shortly.
Well, I, like you, am wearing an integrated stainless steel sports watch, albeit I have demounted it from bracelet and put it on its summer rubber strap, and that is the Girard-Perregaux Laureato Infinity, I believe this one's called, which is the version with the stainless steel case and the black onyx dial with rose gold indices and hands, and hiding in the back the rose gold rotor in there. But generally it's mounted on its integrated stainless steel bracelet. I have it on the Girard-Perregaux deployant clasp and the rubber strap for the summer, because it's a little bit nicer for wearing in the warmer weather on this basis. Hard as hell to get a decent capture on the camera here, because that dial is so deep and lustrous that it is reflecting all the light. But check the show notes out for the picture that I probably won't send to Maziel.
Well, it's probably time we tell you good things, and the good things that we have been up to recently. There's been a lot on the go. We had a visit to Raj a few weeks back there. We teased a little bit about what went on behind the scenes. All the new releases from those guys are out, but there is so much to speak about that we're basically going to have to put a pin in that one, come back to it next week and talk about it then, because there's so much other stuff to get through. And I have had the COVIDs yet again. It was true, the last time we recorded something, I was all over the place. It became a lot worse, and I became a lot worse. At Global Red Bar, I was an absolute mess, and I was still forced to record a podcast live in front of people. Dave doesn't know this, but as I was speaking to him at the start of the day, I was angling because he actually forgot some microphones, and I was angling to cancel it. And then he tells me that the entire room is fully booked and there's a waiting list of over 20 people. So I could not let everybody down. But when we did record the show, and if you've not heard it, I fully recommend you do, because it was actually really good and really entertaining. When I started the show, I apologise to everybody because I was in no fit state to carry on, and I was sat there with my head in my hands, Dave ran the show, did a fantastic job, as did the members of the audience, and as did all the guests that were involved in it. Shame we couldn't have dragged more people up, but the folks that were there at their stalls were manning the fort, dealing with customers, answering questions, and spreading the good word of their brands. But we'll talk a little bit about that later. I've been buying some equipment, bought a new lens, bought the new microphones that we used for that recording, very happy with that, and I've been playing the new Counter-Strike 2, which is dog shit. They killed off Counter-Strike Global Offensive. James Bardolph and myself are very unhappy about this. It's something I bought and paid for. I didn't ask for CS2, but I have CS2. But yeah, that's about it. And the only other thing I'm going to comment on in the last week that I've been doing since I've been in bed ill is a little bit of YouTubing. And there was a guy who created a video that explains how microphones work. Now this sounds as boring as hell. Maybe not so much if you're into your YouTube creation stuff, but this dude is in Nashville. He's a country western singer, songwriter, and he was basically taking all these amazing microphones that the greats have used across the world from the 1930s forward. So you've got Bing Crosby, you've got Elvis, you've got Michael Jackson, all the way through. They used all these different styles and types of mic. He grabbed a hold of these from different places, measured them, figured out how they work, how the diaphragms all work, how the internal mechanisms alter things, the difference between MOSFET and valve amplifier and preamplification. If you're into watches and all the geeky stuff, this might be up your street. So again, check the show notes, there'll be a link in there that'll explain all about it. I found it very interesting, and the guy is very good at explaining stuff in a way that does not put you to sleep. But Dave, are you going to put me to sleep? Tell me what you've been up to.
No, because I've broadly been doing pretty much the same as you, it has to be said. Obviously, there has been Red Bar Global. There was lots of things going on. You possibly, albeit not feeling great, got to do a bit more than myself because unfortunately I had to be tied to the organisation side of it, making sure people were in the right place at the right time. You got out to see the boutiques who, by all accounts, did a fine job, especially Karen at Vacheron. Did a great job of hosting people and brought some pretty special pieces either from stock or they got them sent up from Vacheron to let people see. And also the guys from the Watches of Switzerland group with Breitling and the Omega Boutique and Goldsmiths also really being great and entertaining everybody, little drinks, some food and such like. I've also been buying some kit. I did a bit of an inventory check of my cameras and I've got way too many different systems, so I decided to rationalise. Probably like I should do with many things in my life, but I rationalised my cameras and I invested in some new video equipment.
Quickly recapping on Global Red Bar, as much as we talked about it in the last episode, we have now had the dust settling. We've been able to recap, think about stuff. And the comments I've had, especially from the Americans, is they loved it. They loved the fact it was beside Edinburgh Castle. They loved the fact they came to Scotland. The weather was fantastic for 2 days and they got to meet so many people, especially all the brands that came to support a lot of British guys. A hell of a lot of guys that were involved in our charity watch auction, but it was a great event. I'm glad that I went. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the nighttime stuff on both days and I missed the Sunday, unfortunately, but I did go to Vacheron. I did meet Karen and the team there. I got to see a 222 in real life in better lighting than at Watches and Wonders last year when we did a show with them. And they've got some things happening, some things coming up at their Edinburgh boutique. So stay tuned for information on that. I believe there's only a couple of boutiques in the UK and we are fortunate to have one of the best ones up here. And a big shout out to Troy Barmore, who supplied us with all the images from Global Red Bar that we used in the last show, and a very cheeky image of me and Dave acting like spoiled school children at the back of the class, exchanging dirty jokes in front of the teacher. That is a fantastic picture. We used it in the thumbnail, and yeah, he is brilliant, and the rest of his pics are just as good. Along with the Global Red Bar, Bonham's round the corner, where Sarah, Duchess of Watches, is now working. She's moved on from her prior job. They had fantastic watches literally 2 minutes round the corner, including Comex Sub. They had crazy watches from the likes of Graf and Montblanc and JLC, and they had a Daniels watch as well, a George Daniels, sitting there that you could actually go and have a look at. So fantastic start to the week. I'm in recovery mode, so we'll probably move on and we'll talk about a watch from a brand that helped us dramatically with our watch auction. One of the brands that was unfortunately not at Global Red Bar, but they will be at the Alliance show next year, and that is William Wood. An hour ago, before we hit record here, they announced a couple of watches, the fire extinguisher watch and the fire watch. Completely different colour schemes and dial arrangements, but very reminiscent of our charity watch with a few little changes to it. So have you had a look at this one, Dave, or are you completely in the dark.
See what you did there. But no, I actually have had a good look at these, and they are a really nice little series, both either available separately, or if you wish, you can also buy it as a bit of a boxed set as well. So as you mentioned there, Ricky, there are two that are themed around fire and fire extinguishers. One being the fire extinguisher watch with a dial that is to represent the fire after it's been put out. Lots of kind of greys and undertoned colours, that kind of ashen colour, I guess, from burnt materials after it has been soaked and put out. And also the fire watch, where the dial very much represents a fire in full swing. Both of them coming in at just under £1,000 independently, or you can buy them as a set, which comes with a couple of additional items, a travel roll, I believe, and also I think you get a complimentary bracelet that can fit onto either watch as well. I love the dials on these, especially actually weirdly the more down-toned one, which is the not orange dial, and I like orange, so it should be the other way around, but I love the squiggly hand that kind of represents the fire hose. And on the casebacks, no display casebacks on these, but you either have a fire kind of warning triangle on the fire watch, I believe, and you have an extinguisher logo on the extinguisher watch, funnily enough. And my understanding is they're also lumed, so they will glow in the dark when you get a little bit of UV light activation on them as well. I actually think these are great looking watches at £1,000, extremely good value for money. 41mm will put it into the wheelhouse of many people in terms of watches. Thickness wise, coming in at between 15 and 16 mil, depending on whether you count the dome of the crystal or not. So, very wearable, very much in that kind of mainstream size that you would expect from a lot of these watches. So yes, the guys have done a cracker here. As you mentioned, they were very much meant to be at Global, but unfortunately they have got some moves afoot where they are moving residence, and that kind of clashed up, unfortunately, with the Red Bar Global. So they unfortunately had to say no to coming along, which I think they were regretting because they would love to have been there. But, moving house is a big feat in itself.
This is going to be ideal for the people that got in touch with us for our charity watch auction and expressed dismay and disappointment because they didn't get the Williamwood watch. It's not identical, but it does have a lot of the cues and the themes from it with a little bit of added spice. And the one that is the extinguished watch, where it's supposed to look like the ash and the embers that are glowing slightly, to me it almost looks like a marble effect, which is not to the detriment of the watch whatsoever because it actually looks amazing. And I haven't bought a Williamwood watch yet. We've had them on the show maybe 3 times, 4 times. We've done videos with them over the years. We've done the charity with them, but I've not actually managed to pick one up myself. And I think this could be it because the charity watch caught my attention. And we've done giveaways and things in the past where I've always wanted to maybe keep a hold of it. This could be it. But more details on that coming shortly, for perhaps we'll actually get one to check out in real life. I know Johnny is super busy because we didn't even get a press release on this. It was just by pure chance. I was on Instagram and I spotted this and we had to include it in the show along with Jody and the rest of the watches we're going to chat about. But can you believe it was half a century ago that Roger Moore first took up the mantle and played James Bond? Well, he's unfortunately not been with us for a number of years, and it was a number of years ago on the show that we accidentally gave everybody the news that he'd passed away, even though he'd passed away a number of years before that, and we had actually just seen another article. Never mind, we don't have to go into details about that one, that was in the past, but the present is his watches, his accoutrements, his items. A bit like Freddie Mercury a few weeks ago, they have been on the auction block, and they have commanded a pretty penny, including some Swatch watches and some Omegas. So do you want to give us the details on this?
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, there'll not be the same kind of calibre of jokes in this auction chat as there maybe was in the Freddie Mercury one, but nonetheless, this one had, again, like Freddie Mercury, a lot of his life accoutrements. There was definitely more watches than in the Freddie Mercury one, but there was also shoes, clothes, jackets, all sorts of paraphernalia up for sale as well. The biggest winner, shall we say, in terms of how high we got on the auctioneer's hammer was for a set of Bond-themed Swatch watches, which were projected to go for in and about the 10 to 20,000 mark, and I believe they attained well over 70,000, in fact 76,000 they went for, which is a monstrous amount of money for those Swatch watches. Next to that, the highest, I guess, single price paid was for a Mark 40 Speedmaster, which went for the high 60,000s as well. Again, completely and utterly outstripping what they were expecting it to get. very much they tend to go for £4,000 to £6,000 typically is where those Mark 40s auction at, but obviously not having that link up to Roger Moore and Bond. There was also one individual Swatch watch, a pretty unremarkable one, but it was one of the kind of watches that was made for pushing one of the Bond movies, and it went for a ridiculous £8,000. And this was one that I believe was to commemorate The Spy Who Loved Me, which was very much a figure that was unexpected for that watch. It wasn't a limited one, it wasn't anything particularly special, but it was owned by a real James Bond. So there was that, and there was also, I believe, a Seamaster that went for a fairly healthy amount of money as well. Check out the show notes, there'll be a link to the article and some details about the auction itself. But yeah, plenty of those Bond orientated watches went for it, and it just shows you, I think he's been past now around 6 years, and he's been out of the Bond franchise for many, many years, but it shows you in what high regard he was held. I always kind of liked Roger Moore as Bond. It was a bit of the 80s Bond, which was a little bit unbelievable, but good fun to watch.
He was not my favourite Bond, and I don't really know who is, and it's not going to be Sean Connery just for the fact he was Scottish and he was the first. I really couldn't put my finger on my favourite. I actually like Timothy Dalton. I thought he was very underrated, and he only managed to get 2 goes at it because there was problems with the third. But I remember the Roger Moore ones because the gadgets that he had, we were just getting into digital watches, quartz and LCD, and he had the Seikos in a number of the movies that were really cool, and they were far more inexpensive than perhaps the analog mechanical ones from Omega and Rolex that we've seen before and after. Good memories of Christmas time in the UK when the Bond movies would come on, but it was just a little bit, I don't know, he was a little bit comedic with like Jaws and Moonraker and all the fun and the frolicking and stuff like that. But back to watches, and more fun and frolicking from my past included playing laser tag, although in the UK it was called Laser Quest. And that was a good way of finding out exactly how unfit and unhealthy you were when you thought you were brilliant and you could run around daft with a backpack on and a laser gun in your hand. In Glasgow, it was in Argyll Street. I remember way back in the day when I was a kid, a teenager, I went to Laser Quest. I jumped around crazy, and I did have a lot more energy and a lot more, my mitochondria was working a little bit better back then. And I remember jumping at what I thought was a wall to bounce off the wall, to bounce back, to shoot one of my opponents. I didn't realise it was a fire escape, and my foot hit the latch to open the door, and I ended up in bright scorching sunlight in the middle of Glasgow city centre with a laser tag gun. But yeah, that's just kind of what happens in my life. But the guys at Worn and Wound, they maybe have not been quite as energetic as that with their new release with the guys at Zodiac, but they have got 2 releases out that are absolutely fantastic. UV reactive, not just on the dial, not just on the bezel, not even just on the strap, but including the case flanks and little bits and pieces that will glow under dark light, UV light, or if you take it into if there are any existing Laser Quest places across the planet. They're based on an existing solid workhorse, that's a Super Seawolf, but the dials are different, the bezels are different, the strap technology is different.
Your story of the fire escape reminds me, at least one of the times that I broke my nose was also playing Laser Quest, where I saw what looked to be a dark area that looked like a tunnel or a passage through, but it turned out it was a solid wall that I just ran into. So yes, I think we've all probably got our little stories of things that we did. I woke up in a pool of blood with a plastic backpacky type target thing on and my gun, not knowing what had happened.
Would this have been the same one as me on the corner of Argyll Street in Glasgow city centre?
100% was the same place. So we've probably both left copious amounts of DNA all over that building.
Well, it is funny because they do have the black lights, and I did see a lot. Never mind, we'll carry on.
Yeah, that was a different time though. That was a different incident. Moving along. These watches are very much my thing, which is garish, bright, luminous colours smashed together, and everything about it shouldn't work, but actually everything about it definitely does work. 2 versions of the watch, both very closely related, same case, same movement, same watch essentially, but with very different colour palettes to them. We have the infrared and the ultraviolet. Both really bold, solid colours, greens, purples, violets, reds, all sorts of different colours on there. And as Ricky mentioned, the dial itself smashes up all those colours, the rehot ring, the hands, textures and patterns on the dial. But for me, the really cool thing in this is the edging.
We love a bit of edging, don't we, Dave?
I mean, especially in a dark room with a gun. Pretty cool thing with these is you could wear them when you do a bit of laser quest, laser tagging, and you can have them in opposing teams. You could have them, it's a really cool watch. It's fun. Super Seawolf is a nice solid watch. Uses that STP movement in there, which is, the own brand in-house movement that these guys have, being part of the Fossil group, but closely related to something like your ETA or your Sellita SW200. In terms of sales, very much a limited edition, these ones, with a given number being sold directly by Worn and Wound on their website, with the remaining, I think, roughly 73 to 75 units each going on sale on the Zodiac website at the end of October. All of the deliveries beginning in early November. So just in time for the nice dark weather as we move into the Northern Hemisphere winter. So they'll definitely be doing a bit of glowing as you're out and about.
Yeah, this is a win for me. There's been a lot of Zodiac releases in the last year that I absolutely love. And there are some that don't quite hit the mark for me. Not every single thing is a runaway success, but this one does. And I think it's the dial. It has got the nostalgic 80s feel. And there's a real difference between nostalgia 80s and actual 80s. And I've seen this in memes before, where your nostalgic 80s, you look back and you think of the vivid colours and the craziness and the NESs and the Back to the Future and the Robbie the Robot and all that stuff. But the actual 80s was a draw forward from the 70s, where everything was wood panel and greens and oranges. It wasn't a bit like Dave's top. It wasn't exactly the way we remember it. We're a little bit rose tinted. But this dial, these watches, love them to bits. The dial itself, it looks like perhaps the detector system that they used in Aliens when they're looking out for the heat signatures, or Tron, or even the game Tempest from Atari, where you've got, looks like a spider's web kind of meeting in the centre. Everything about it is great. Absolutely love it. Even the quirky little retro video that they put together to advertise it, that's maybe 5 minutes long. And the photography, massive shout out to Cat Shoulders over at Worn and Wound. The photo shoot they did to launch this watch is unparalleled. I absolutely love it. I actually messaged her specifically on WhatsApp, which she doesn't seem to use anymore, to say, I love this. This photo set was amazing. So look in the show notes. There'll be lots of pictures. Perhaps even in the thumbnail for this edition, we will include that one, because it is a runaway success, and 282 pieces, they will not last. So if you like it, get in there quick.
The only bit we didn't mention, price point, round about the $1,600 mark. So a lot of watch for the money, it has to be said. And, you're not going to see that many of them. As you mentioned, 282 of each, 200 of which are available from Worn and Wound, and 82 each directly from Zodiac themselves.
Now we have an email from somebody that's coming to Scotland. Dave, do you want to read this, and perhaps we can guide this person on his merry travels?
So we do. We have got an email here from Mark, who says, visiting Glasgow October 9th to the 11th. Hey gents, my wife and I are visiting Glasgow for a few days on honeymoon. We'd love to meet you and anyone else in the city during the stay for a coffee or beer. Been listening to you since the beginning from Canada and love the banter. I'll be on the 9th to 11th. On any pub recommendations or sites to see, keep up the excellent work, Mark.
What eateries and pub establishments would you recommend for this gentleman?
If you're over on your honeymoon and you fancy a good cocktail, I would suggest the Anchor Line in Glasgow city centre. You can get yourself wines and beers and all the other accoutrements you're used to when you're drinking, but if you want a good cocktail, that's the place to go. They might even have a cheeky little rosebud, because, Ricky enjoyed a little rosebud the other night when we were out.
It was Adrian's rosebud that I was enjoying, but then I had one of my own because it was really good. That was a cool thing that we did. We met up with Theo from IWC along with Adrian from Bark and Jack, because we were planning a bit of a Swiss invasion at the end of the year. We're going to IWC because it's been a few years since we last been on the show. We're due a catch up. We want to check out what they've been up to, and we're going to go behind the scenes with some of their watchmakers and their material specialists. And it's not IWC we're going to talk about here. It's another brand we've not had in the show for a couple of years, and we do need to chase them up, and that is Montblanc. They have done a collaboration with Asher and Gabe from the Collective Horology, and these guys can do no wrong in my eyes. They have been fantastic supporters of everything we do here. They've actually helped me out behind the scenes on some problems that I had with business stuff, And yeah, they are just really cool, and everything they do seems to be a winner. This time around, as I say, they partnered with Montblanc. They have a new release. Miziel managed to actually go along to this outing and get some video clips and some pictures and things like that. So instead of chasing me and Dave up for content for the show notes, he's going to have to do it himself.
This is a release where Montblanc they have been doing it slowly, but finally maybe going to get that mainstream press where Montblanc are bringing in their Minerva big boy roots, the real heavy hitting high horology end of the Montblanc business. All of that hand finishing. This watch is the Montblanc 1858 Minerva monopusher chronograph with collective horology. The official name is the Blue Arrow P.05, and it has got that beautiful vintage Minerva logo on the dial as well. This watch is genuinely a in-house watch. Other than sapphire, rubies, and a couple of screws, everything about this watch is made in-house in Villeray, and it's an absolute stunner. Combining all of the kind of traditional hand finishing that you expect from Minerva with, in my opinion, quite a modern take on a more vintage dial style, but with a kind of colour palette that makes it a little bit more punchy. I adore this watch. I love Minerva stuff, and the fact they've got Montblanc and Minerva on the dial doesn't look like they've overcooked it. Not too much going on, in my opinion. I am all over this. Not the most attainable watch for many people, coming in at just under 40,000, but compared to what you would be paying for something else from someone else of this caliber, it's got to be said, a bargain is probably the right word to use for what you're getting for your money. So yes, I absolutely love this.
We got to chat with the folks at Montblanc at this year's Watches and Wonders, as we did the previous year, and just the technology they've got and the things that they have access to through Minerva, through the Richemont group. It's incredible, but nobody really talks about them. They've always been under the radar, but since I got into watches, they've been one of my favourites. Again, I've not bought one yet, but the Time Walker was always one that stood out for me. I remember, it was Hugh Jackman was one of their sort of brand ambassadors, and all the watches were super cool. SIHH, they had things in the past where you could come along, you could talk to the watchmakers, you could actually build up in front of everybody that was at the show, try and build a movement using the tweezers and all the intricate parts. Great brand. They just don't get the respect that they're due, and I think it's due to the fact that people think of pens and leather goods and luggage and things like that. So fingers crossed, with the way that Collective have been pushing watchmaking, watch collecting across the world, from people that are just getting into it to the die-in-the-wool enthusiasts, hopefully this will take Montblanc and propel them forward, like Dave says. And Miziel has got video clips, all the rest of it, including a little speech from Laurent, the CEO. So check the show notes, and yeah, just good luck to the guys. I don't think they'll need it because they've never needed it in the past. All the watches we've spoken about this year with them, collaborations they've done with James Lamb, collaborations with Chapek, they've all done exceedingly well.
Of course, this will not be the aesthetic for some people. That's very much a personal opinion thing, but this is pretty close to the perfect package for a monopusher chronograph as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I'm going to talk about a watch now from Audemars Piguet. That is a code 1159 with the revisions that they brought in over the past few years, and I think they have now got it spot on. I think the watches that they're releasing just now, they are hitting the mark. The colours are great, the dials are great, the finishing is great, and they could potentially be leading into what they hoped to do 5 years ago when they first announced this range of watches. And I know there's people that have been following us since the early days and will say, you gave them such a hard time back then. Well, that was merited because back then they said, these watches we're releasing just now, these are going to be the Royal Oak killers. Nobody knew the Royal Oak was going to be amazing when it first came out, but 5-10 years down the road, they looked back and they thought it was great. Well, the 1159s when they first came out were not great. These ones are great. This dial on this release in this size is fantastic. And the price point, a little bit like the Montblanc there, it's not insignificant, but you do get a lot for your money.
This is the latest update, and essentially it's got smaller. The Code 1159 has been traditionally in that kind of 41mm size, and as you've mentioned, Ricky, they've tweaked it, finessed it, fettled with it, and got it a much closer to being what it probably should have been when it launched. But for some people, especially people of smaller wrists like myself, or any ladies out there who maybe have a slightly smaller wrist, it's always been a little bit big on the wrist for them. We now have a 38mm version, perfect size. It's got a little bit thinner as well, around about 1.82mm thinner, so it makes it altogether a more wearable proposition. This initially is only available in a rose gold case, and there's 2 dial variations. Ivory, very much conservative, under the radar, or a in-your-face purple dial, and it's absolutely amazing, this purple dial. The purple with the rose gold is just a glorious combination of colours, and it works super well. Slightly different movement in there, still obviously what you'd be expecting, a high-end movement with an Audemars Piguet, but this is a movement that is the same as being used in the 37mm Royal Oak, because with that smaller case size, the movement that's being used in the 41mm no longer fits in the case. The movement for this one is also manufactured by Vaucher, which is a very, very high-end movement manufacturer based in Switzerland, so nothing to complain about there. The only thing, as much as the dial is pretty much perfect, the only thing I'm going to comment on is at 32,000 for the watch, a stamped guilloche dial, would I have thought they could maybe stretch to an actual guilloche dial that's then been coated? Possibly. But all that said, this stamped guilloche dial is done extremely well, to the point where most folk would probably struggle to tell that it was actually not a stamped dial. So therefore, I'll give it a pass on that. It's a cracking watch. I am very much looking forward to actually trying one of these, because Code 1159's been a little dirty secret. I've kind of always quite liked it. The more recent ones, especially with the purples that they brought out, yes, the purple light says it all. I think I could be tempted with one of these. It is definitely not going to be an instantaneous purchase, but if I try the 38 and it's as good as I think it might be, I might be in a dangerous place.
I like it, but the price point, is that not because it's rose gold?
Sure, but 32,000, it's not a bracelet, it's a strap, so it's a rose gold case. Sure, that's going to have an impact on the price.
That's $32,000. How much is the Omega Speedmaster in rose gold, or whatever they call it? It's kind of 28 UK, so...
Yeah, I think I'm not quite sure. It's probably 2,000 or 3,000 cheaper, something like that. I don't think it's a deal killer by any stretch of the imagination. I think I would even argue if they had done a hand guilloche dial and the price was maybe 2,000, maybe 34,000, 35,000, it would have made it a more complete package. But like I say, I'm not going to complain too much, and I don't think it's a deal killer by any stretch. It's maybe just my only tiny little negative on it, but there is no perfect watch.
True, there is no perfect watch, and if we were going to pick some nits like Dave did there, we could moan the fact that they should be using an in-house movement, and they're not. They're using a manufacturer caliber, but it's fantastic, and I'm pretty sure the quality that they go to with things, that the dial will look incredible in real life, even under macro magnification, because harking back to the chats we had with the guys at Raj about manufacturing and chasing microns, you can get away with a lot these days with computer controlled devices and stamping and things like that. So we'll see how it looks. No doubt Dave will be down in London. He'll be able to pop into the AP boutique at Harrods and get to have a look at one of these guys. I don't think it'll be quite as scarce as the Royal Oaks and the offshores and things like that. But another bit of news just before we finish off the show is to say that it's long overdue and it's finally happened, and that is that Bremont have now joined the Alliance of British Watch and Clock Makers. I think they were the only guys that hadn't joined as of just now, but they have. We managed to catch up with their new chairman, Rupert, at the Red Bar Global. He was there the night before with Davide, the new CEO, who previously was at Tudor, Montblanc, HYT, an absolute powerhouse and legend within the industry. We had him on the show years ago at the very beginning, 2019 I think it was, before all the pandemic nonsense. He was there doing a talk about some unreleased models, some prototypes and things. Dave got to see that. I didn't.
They came up and they were showing off some lines.
Did you sniff them?
Did you sniff them?
Did they smell metallic? You know how you can smell metal sometimes? Am I getting away with this? like tasting pennies. Either that or blood. Anyway, carry on. Tell us about these watches that we're not allowed to talk about.
Yep, they have, as of yet unreleased, everyone had to put their phones away. And actually, I'll give them their due. They all abided by it. So there was no sneaky pictures. Well, if there were any, they haven't been leaked yet, shall we say. But he stood up there, he gave a great little chat, this being Davide, and just kind of talked through his new entry to the role and some of these new models that are coming. There is one of them that, I quite fancy actually. Lovely colourway. A couple of the others, not my thing colourway wise, but nothing groundbreaking in terms of an all-new watch, but some iterative changes and colour changes on some of their existing lines is all I can really say at this point in time.
It was a year ago, the last time I was speaking to the guys properly. It wasn't down at the Wing, it was a launch event for Supernova and the Fury, and that was when they had the new brand ambassador with them, that's Mark Strong. A year ago, yeah, exactly a year ago to the day almost as we record this. And things have been a little bit quiet. Obviously, behind the scenes, there's been many changes. The new CEO coming in, Davide Serrato. You've got the investment from Bill Ackman of over $40 million. Yeah, it's just, there's lots of good things happening there. There's a bit of a change. There has been over the past couple of years when they got involved with Raj, funnily enough, with their movement technology and getting fantastic quality components and training and workmanship from the guys in Switzerland and bringing it to the UK. So yeah, Bremont are on the up and up, and I'm super happy that they are part of the alliance now because they were the biggest player along with Christopher Ward, and it was almost like they were in opposing teams, and now they are collaborating. They are going to be side by side, driving watchmaking within Britain forward, and that is a good thing for everybody.
Entirely agree. Them joining up with the alliance is a great thing.
So that pretty much ends the show. If you're watching on YouTube, we would appreciate you subscribe to the channel. If you liked the video and you left a comment telling us what you thought, what your favourite watch was, what your most hated watch that we chatted about was. We're basically looking to get more people involved in this as well. If you want to contribute, if you want to join the writing team, we have got a website, scottishwatches.co.uk. We're looking for contributors for writing articles, new releases, opinion pieces. Perhaps you've been into watches for 5 decades, perhaps 5 minutes. It doesn't matter. If you want to get involved with our community, drop us a line by email. Don't DM us. That email address is info@scottishwatches.co.uk. And if you like the Instagrams, you can find us there at Scottish Watches. Anything else, Dave, before we let these people get on their way?
Check out the show notes. Keep Miziel happy. If you spot any spelling mistakes, it was neither myself or Ricky. It was definitely Miziel.
So thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you guys again soon.